Everyone still looks uncomfortable.
Perhaps they're all remembered that old saying, power corrupts.
Welcome to Second Officer Slog, episode 13. I am M.
I'm Jackson.
And we're here to talk about another episode of Discovery. It seems like we were here just a week ago talking about an episode of Discovery, and yet here we are today talking about an episode of Discovery.
I don't know what you mean. It seems like the last episode of Discovery aired 7 years ago at this point.
No, that's not true.
These weeks have been long.
I feel like we literally just did one of these, and we did a week ago.
Both of those things can be true at once.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I actually felt like last week was a better week than most of my weeks have been in the last 6 months. So maybe your mileage may vary.
Here we go.
I have continued to not watch the Orville.
Beautiful.
Maybe I'm just done. Maybe I just don't have to care.
No, you're out.
Also, today it was announced Discovery's getting a second season.
Yes, today we had the announcement. Season 2 is coming, presumably in 2019, because that was announced.
Yeah, no, that's going to take time.
Yeah, because there was a story a few weeks ago going, we know what we want to do for Season 2. It'll happen in probably 2019. It's just a matter of if it gets approved or not. And now it has been confirmed, because apparently lots of people are signing up for the thing to watch the Star Trek. Let's see how much that drops off the second it goes away.
Let's see how much money they throw at them to make it faster when everybody logs off immediately after Star Trek ends.
I bet they are. No, you gotta hit those new season dates.
What if you could actually give us Star Trek in the fall of 2018? I would be happy. You would be happy. I don't think the production crew is going to be happy, but maybe they'd be fine with it.
I don't think that'll actually happen.
I think that'd be asking a lot. Yeah, no, for sure.
I think it would be more likely that they'd make another. I think it is more likely that we get a second Star Trek show than you get more Discovery quicker.
Bro, I don't think that they're going to try to make a second Star Trek show. Are you kidding me?
I mean, I don't think that, but I think
not within the next 3 years. Like, this show would have to be successful for at least 4 seasons for them to make another Star Trek show.
I think that in a world in which this show is so expensive, if you wanted to make get people to watch something quicker, you do a smaller, cheaper spin-off.
Starfleet Academy.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be bad, but that seems like the TV way.
It'd be fucking bad. I don't want to watch Fear the Walking Dead, Jackson.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Fear the Discovery. Fear the trekking stars.
Fear the Vulcan dead, like we have in this episode, an exploded Vulcan. Jackson, we're here to talk about Discovery Episode 6.
I mean, not after that segue, we're not.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Okay, fine. Let's do the details.
Yeah, why don't you tell us the details?
Why don't I tell us the details? Good question. Fuck you. This is episode 6 of Discovery. It aired 22nd of October 2017. It is called Lethe?
Yes.
Lethe. Yes, I didn't know.
Merriam-Webster told me it was Lethe. I would have assumed it was Lethe, but no, Merriam-Webster said Lethe, so there you go.
There we go. It is written by Joe Menosky and Ted Sullivan and directed by
these aren't getting edited.
Yeah, I know. Douglas Arniakowski?
Yes, that's what I would say. Arniakowski.
First try.
Yep.
And it is set in December 2256. There are some flashbacks to the 2240s. Flashbacks, quote unquote.
Oh, the banging 2240s.
You know it. Little bit of trivia about this episode. Aside from Brian Fuller, who worked on Voyager and some DS9, this is our first episode with the involvement of someone who has written for Star Trek prior. This is Joe Menosky. You've got Joe Menosky's Memory Alpha page up, don't you? You're going to tell us some of the hits.
Joe Menosky has 57 Star Trek credits, including being executive story editor for season 4 of TNG. He's written such episodes as Clues, First Contact, Darmok, Time's Arrow, Our Favorite Masks.
Yes! Masks! Solo writing credit.
Voyager hits such as The Year of Hell.
Oh, hey, people like that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of Voyager stuff. I'm not going to shout them out. Scorpion, other famous Voyager episode. There's a lot of Voyager stuff here too. So yeah, we're talking about someone deep in the Star Trek coming back.
Yeah.
Worked with Brian Fuller on Voyager episodes.
And he's back here, so...
Yep. So that means this episode has to be good, right?
I mean, we both love this episode.
No, it's a setup for this episode being disappointing, but this is actually my favorite episode of Discovery so far.
It's so deep on its Star Trek bullshit. Anyone who is like, oh, this show's not Star Trek enough has probably got to shut up after this, because, oh my word.
Do you want me to do the summary of what happens in this episode, Jackson?
Let's quickly run down what happens.
Okay, so Sarek is going on a secret mission, and with his adjunct, who turns out to be a logic extremist who blows up the ship to prevent Sarek from further contaminating the Vulcan race. There's a lot of racial purity stuff going on in Discovery so far. Gabriel Lorca and Ash Tyler, who we rescued last episode, are now best buds. They're in, like, the holodeck things, shooting a bunch of Klingons in a VR shooting gallery. Apparently they got Vives for Christmas. It's great. They're best buds. Everyone on the ship is in love with Ash Tyler. He is just the coolest, clearly. Tilly thinks he's hot. Lorca thinks he's the best. He's now the new security chief, maybe? Guess? I don't know.
Yes,
anyway.
that happens. That is confirmed.
Yes, I know, but, like, we haven't seen him on the bridge be security yet.
We haven't really seen anyone on the bridge be anything.
Yeah, that's true. While there is an awkward meeting between Michael Burnham and Ash Tyler, Michael Burnham falls over in distress. She is having one of her psychic links with Sarek things where she feels that he's in distress and is unconscious and calling out to her, and she's like, I've got to go save him. And Gabriel Lorca's like, yeah, no, let's go do that. Fine. Because Lorca is chill. I don't know. It seems like he's come out, now that he's got a new best friend, he seems a little more mellow this episode. Anyway, they transport to the edge of a nebula, and they're like, well, we need to go in and find Sarek, but the ship cannot go into the nebula because the nebula would interact with the mycelium spores and blow up everything. So Burnham, Tilly, and Ash Tyler all get in a shuttle with a neural interface that would allow her to, like, it basically is like a fake mind meld that allows her to, like, back channel into Sarek's mind.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that.
We'll get into it. Anyway, they go into the thing. Meanwhile, Admiral Cornwell from last episode, the lady who's been very nice and hates that Lorca sucks, shows up and is like, Lorca, you really suck. You cannot have this guy who's been tortured for 7 months, your new chief officer, on the ship that is, like, the most important thing in the world. And he's like, yeah, well, let's have a drink and let's sleep together and forget about it. And they do. And then she's at night, she's like looking at scars on his back from him being tortured. She's worried about his mental state. And she touches them and he freaks out and he pulls a phaser on her and, like, chokes her. Like, he wakes up startled and she's like, you're not the man I thought you were. I'm going to remove you from the ship. You are not able to be in charge of this thing. Meanwhile, Burnham goes into Sarek's mind, in which she encounters one of her worst moments in her youth, in which she was denied access to the Vulcan Expeditionary Force, which I'm pretty sure was always called the Vulcan Science Academy, but I don't know the first thing about Vulcans. So, whatever. It's like the Vulcan Starfleet. It's the thing Spock said he wouldn't go do. And that is an important plot point because as she goes in multiple times and gets ejected from Sarek's mind, what she actually finds out is that in his dying moments, Sarek is reflecting on his biggest failure, which is a time in which, when Burnham took the test to get into the Vulcan Science Academy, the Vulcans were like, well, one of your children can come in because one of them's human, one of them's half human, and we don't want any dirty humans polluting our academy, but we'll let one in, so you have to pick who it is. And Sarek picked Spock, and then when Spock grew up, Spock went off to Starfleet, estranging him from his father forever. Knowing that, she talks to Sarek and gets him to wake up and hit his transponder signal. They find him and get him back. He is too injured for his mission, however, which was to meet with some Klingons who were going to negotiate maybe a peace treaty, because they were not included in Cole's new I'm going to unite the Cowses thing, and they were feeling sour about it. So Admiral Cornwell goes instead and saying, when I get back, I'm going to remove you, Gabriel Lorca. And he's like, okay. Anyway, she goes there. It's clearly a trap. She is captured by the Klingons. And Gabriel Lorca, when Saru tells him, is like, let's ask Starfleet if we should go rescue her. Ominous ending. The end.
It's a good episode. You got your A plot, you got your B plot, you got some, like, political intrigue, you've got some character beats, you've got nonsense, involving someone's mind and ridiculous science that allows minds to, like, they make the idea of mind melds across space like something physical and real in this episode, which is crazy.
Sarek, when Sarek protected her in the bombing or whatever, he did a Katra graft to help hold her mind together.
Exactly.
So now they Sarah's psychic link forever and ever.
Because in the first episode, or the second episode, it was when he shows up again, and they like link in the cell. We were like, oh, we're reading this as like he's not actually there with her. Like, this is Burnham talking to a projection of someone, like a memory, like it's all happening inside Burnham's mind. It was how we remember, like we read that, but that's not true at all. It's actually they can talk to each other from anywhere all the time if they are like in enough trauma.
Yes, but only because of the special thing that Vulcans don't usually do.
Yes, only because of the Katra link.
The Katra graft. It is not just a mind meld that did it.
No, it's a deeper, next level SSJ mind meld.
So let's work up from the things that don't matter to the things that do. Paul Stamets is high as shit on his mushrooms now.
He's so high on his mushrooms. Like, every time they do a jump, he gets into the mushroom booth and communes with his mushrooms, and he's fucking high on those mushrooms.
Yep. Now he's into it. The one scene is him like being very excited about the idea of Katra because he's like, oh, a consciousness that like ignores time and space. You can tap into it. That's really groovy. And Lorca's like, we have zero time for this. Please just tell me if you can help make an interface. And he can. He does.
But he is so high. It's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, no, he's been really uptight, and now he is just the chillest man in the world. And they do not address the fact that there was a weird mirror ghost in his bedroom last episode.
I wonder where that's going.
Yeah, I wonder where that's going. Next most important thing, the computer is an asshole.
The computer fucking sucks. The computer like negs you about your food.
And to be fair, this seems semi in line with the weird computer voice that would happen on the Enterprise sometimes, where it just add in like a twist of something that would like you wouldn't see in TNG, but in TOS they didn't have an idea of what the computer could and couldn't do. Sometimes the computer's a little chattier than it should be. This computer, when you order from the replicator, is like, oh, green tea, a very healthy choice, it has antioxidants.
Yeah, and like Burnham's coaching Tilly to become a captain says like, oh, you need to have this, you need to have
Jackson,
this.
on the list of important things, Tilly and Burnham is much higher than this.
Yeah, but you can't bring up that without that. Well,
Yeah,
I'll wait.
Okay. Sarek is flying a ship that looks like the ship from Enterprise, the big Vulcan cruiser. It doesn't have the Attack of the Clones warp ring yet, or anymore. They've just incorporated that into the ship, but otherwise it looks exactly the same.
It's identical. God,
Yep.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really cool. Vulcan itself is really neat. We meet Amanda. Amanda's cool.
Yes,
Amanda is played by, let me scroll down to find the actress's name, Mia Kirshner, who Destiny was very happy about because I think she was on the L Word.
Yes, the L Word is where everyone on Twitter is losing their minds about. That is the thing. Anyone who cares a lot. So I assume very important to that.
They have introduced the concept of Asian Vulcans now, which is cool.
Yes.
I'm very excited about that. So yeah, I guess we can talk about Tilly and Burnham. Tilly and Burnham open up jogging through the Discovery wearing t-shirts that say disco on them.
Disco!
And Burnham's like, you need to get faster if you want to be a captain. You need to get yourself a commendation so you can be transferred to a ship like the Enterprise where like shit actually gets done, not this Black Ops bullshit ship like this. And I want them to incorporate this ship into like the idea of TOS Star Trek more and more. I love the ways in which it makes everything really messy.
It really does.
Somewhere out there, Christopher Pike is flying the Enterprise and being condescending toward women, and yet Tilly and Burnham are over here jogging through the ship, talking about how she needs to get onto that ship. And the ways in which that doesn't work are really interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I want this to be a fully explored part of the timeline in the most interesting of ways. It's great. It's great.
Yep. So Tilly's got to get faster because she's got to be good at everything if she wants to be captain. Burnham's going to teach her how to be the best captain she can be. Tilly, meanwhile, has the hots for Ash Tyler because everyone has the hots for Ash Tyler. He's hot shit on the Discovery.
Yeah, so he's clearly a Klingon spy.
So last episode we talked about how the timeline doesn't match up, where he clearly couldn't have been like on that ship, like being like L'Rell's like favored prisoner boy for 7 months because L'Rell was in the graveyard of the Battle of the Binary Stars for 6 months. So she literally could only be there for like maybe like 3 weeks. And yet she was there and he was there, which means he's really suspect in that he might just be a Klingon in disguise. And I think it was after the recording, Jackson, he said, what if it's Vok? And I was like, no, that can't be true. And then, was it IO9 who ran a story?
Yeah, there's like, I haven't looked too deeply into it because I like, don't want to spoil myself on other stuff accidentally. But there was a headline. So
the thing that is known is that the guy who plays Ash Tyler, let me find his name right now. Let me scroll down. Shazad Latif was, when he was like when he was interviewed like in the lead up to the show, was like, yeah, I originally auditioned to be a Klingon, and then they decided to put me on the actual ship, and it's great. And then the actor who plays Vok, whose name I don't have because he's not in this episode, and I'm just looking at the Memory Alpha, has no credits to their name and isn't part of the junket or anything. And so there's a rumor going around that actor doesn't exist and that Shazad Latif is playing both characters and that Ash Tyler is Vok in disguise, much like Trouble with Tribbles, in which a Klingon is like physically altered to appear human and is just on the ship as a Klingon spy.
There's a news story from April that says Star Trek Discovery switches an actor's role mid-production. Yep. And the tone of the story is like, oh, what's going on over there? This must be a disaster, and not, oh, he's a Klingon spy.
So even without like that sort of like behind the scenes going on in this episode, he immediately lies to Lorca about how good he is firing a phaser, and then was like, I'm just trying to make you feel better, Captain. Lorca's like, don't do that. Don't apologize for excellence. That's literally the line. Don't apologize for excellence. Because Lorca's ridiculous.
Don't apologize for excellence. I want my chief of security to shoot better than me.
Meanwhile, Lorca is grilling him on where he grew up and stuff. Like, Lorca clearly has suspicions, and his and Ash Tyler's story doesn't entirely line up, but not in a way that is like a problem. Like he's like, oh, you don't actually live in Seattle. You live like 45 kilometers out of Seattle. I wouldn't call that living in Seattle. I would call that living in Seattle. If you're talking to someone who doesn't know what Seattle is, like what is in the suburbs of Seattle.
Yep, and to be fair, that is his point. He's like, yeah, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, my parents are conveniently dead.
And my parents are conveniently dead, and I'm going to be really interested in Michael Burnham. When I meet her, I'm going to pound the table for emphasis, and then we're going to talk a lot about how weird it is to be human together for the rest of the episode.
Conversation at the end where like he is a sound like Michael Burnham's saying some things like wrapping up the themes of the episode in like some kind of awkward ways, and he basically responds with the Star Trek script sounding board, like no personality, just that's what it means to be human, Burnham. Nodding at her. Like, he is an entity in this episode for other characters to project onto and react to, but he has no character. They are clearly doing this on purpose. Either he is definitely Vok, and that's just a true thing, or they at least want people to think that because they're being so obvious about it. So who knows where this is going.
Yes, if they were playing actual three-dimensional chess with this, I would be very excited. And he's just a guy who happens to be kind of weird, but they want you to think he's Vok.
What if he's just a guy?
Yeah. So she goes to find Sarek. Sarek is in a nebula. That nebula is an amazing psychedelic masterpiece. It's so good.
Yes. This show has money and it is the future. So they're just going to have like not that many shots. Most of the shots in the shuttle when they go into the nebula are from like don't have any of the windows in, but whenever you can see through out into the nebula, it's just the most beautiful thing. Just like purples and pinks rushing past the windows. It's the best.
Sarek and Burnham get into a fist fight in Sarek's mind, and then Sarek punches her so hard she like discorporates out of his brain.
Yep. She is punched out of his mind.
With like a ridiculous effect where it's just ghosts of her like radiating backwards out of his brain.
Yeah, no, I immediately knew I had to screen cap that.
It's so good.
From the writer of Masks.
From the writer of Masks. That vase is not to Riker's taste, Jackson.
It is not to Riker's taste.
No, it wasn't. To be fair, it was not.
To be fair, yes, no. Riker's taste in vases, that was not on it.
So let's talk about the actual two plots that matter here. Let's talk about Lorca first.
Okay.
So Lorca like Lorca's got a lot going on. Like he lost the Busan, and then he got the Discovery, and then he was captured.
The Baran, not the Busan.
The Baran, sorry, not the Busan, the Baran. He lost the Baran, and then he was captured, and then he comes out, and he's immediately back in business. And his friend, the Admiral, is worried about him. And when she's like, you can't just burn him on, you can't bring Ash Tyler on. We don't know if he's like traumatized, if he's been broken as working for the Klingons. And he's like, look, rules are for admirals, which is true. But when you say it like that, it sounds evil.
Yeah. The problem isn't that he is evil in this episode, or at least how he is being portrayed right now. It is that he knows the rules of Star Trek and thus just like breaks the entire illusion of what Starfleet is.
Yeah. So we have the situation in which like she's trying to grill him, and then when he pushes back, he's like, what are you trying to do? Are you here to like relieve me of my command or whatever? And she's like, no, I just want to talk to you as a friend. He's like, well, let's talk as friends then. And he brings out a bottle of scotch, and they get drunk. And then they're talking about their past, and she's like, oh, remember that time we went to this meteor shower or whatever? And he's like, no, I don't. And it's played in a double sense of maybe he's forgotten, but also there's this long-standing rumor that everyone has that I thought was stupid until this episode, that maybe this Lorca is from the Mirror Universe.
Yeah,
which you have been firmly against, and I was firmly against until this episode.
No, but then like, so we talked about this. I think we should get to the next scene and how like this plot ends up going.
So yeah, they're like talking, and he's traumatized, or whatever, and then they have like this interlude where they're like, he's like, if you're trying to psychoanalyze me and I have an hour, I can think of a better way to spend an hour. And then they take off their comm badges, and we next see them in bed. And she's like touching his back, and there's like a scar she doesn't recognize. That's like a weird triangle brand. And when she touches it, that's when he freaks out and pulls a phaser on her. And she is obviously upset by this, and is just like, I don't understand you. You passed all of the psychological tests that we did when you were like, when you lost the Bran and when you became captain, or when you came back and everything, you passed them all, but like, you clearly are not okay. So that means you lied on the test. That means that you're capable of anything, and I don't know you anymore. And basically storms out.
And
Lorca,
you get this moment with those two where she's like, this isn't okay, this is fucked, you're fucked. And basically he's like, I'm begging you, don't take my ship from me, it's all I got, I'm a Starfleet captain. And pivoting from Lorca's the mysterious evil captain to like getting to know him and him just being completely broken is not the direction I expected, but I'm very, very happy with it. I'm glad that's the way they've gone.
Yeah, but it leads to like enough evidence where like I could accept an explanation that this Lorca might be from the Mirror Universe. The likely place where he would have come over is where the Baran is lost. Like maybe Gabriel Lorca did go down with the ship, and then they found this guy floating for whatever reason. They can contrive any reason. I don't really care what that is. And they were like, oh, it's Lorca. And he's like, yes, I'm Lorca. And is suddenly like thrust in the situation where like he's commended for whatever went on and has been given a new ship. And now he's like, well, this place sucks a lot less than the universe I came from. I might as well like make the best of it. And he's trying very hard to make the best of it as the one person from the Mirror Universe trying to live a life of a man he never met. And I think that would be really cool.
I think that'd be very cool. The thing I liked about that was like the thing that I thought was dumb about the theory is that it doesn't like add anything. It's just, oh, he's evil because he's from the Mirror Universe or whatever. But with the context of the character development they gave to Lorca this week, that theory becomes more like, oh, what if instead of him being evil, he's actually like already had his I'm not evil moment, but from a place that's so much worse that when he comes and tries to fit in the Prime Universe, he's like completely fucked. That I don't know if that's actually the way they're going to go with it. There are 10 billion different ways they can do this, but we know there is confirmed Mirror Universe stuff. They end both of the last two episodes on like shots of people reflected in mirrors being sinister. There's been like references to mirrors throughout the show. Like it's clearly going there, and they've said as much that there are quote multiple Mirror Universe episodes. We don't know what that means. Does it mean that they're going there? Does it mean that there's like that concept is central to the show? No one knows yet, but there are ways it could be very interesting.
Yeah. And then we just had a debate before we recorded about whether or not Lorca knew he was sending Admiral Cornwell into a trap when he was like, no, go meet the Klingons. Like, Sarek can't do it, but you have to. I know that she'll do it. She believes in peace.
There's a shot once she gets on the shuttle after he's like,
where it's just him like walking framed by the entire shuttle bay.
yeah, as it's like sinister music. She's not gonna come back. Like,
And we know that because we've seen Star Trek before. But does Lorca know that?
I don't know. Like, so they have the moment where Sarah's like, "Oh, we should probably go and rescue her," and he's like, "No, I'm going to be the good thing. We're going to wait for orders. We can't. Which is bigger than all of us."
To be fair, Sarah wakes up Lorca, like goes to his quarters. It's seemingly in the middle of the night. It's hard to tell because Lorca's always in darkness because of his eye thing. But like it's a really quiet moment that plays as like, oh, he was in bed or whatever, and so he's like, oh, he's been taken. She's been taken. Should we go rescue her? He's like, contact Starfleet. We'll go if they say okay. But if not, what if we lead the Discovery into another trap? Like, what if Cornwell is a trap to get Discovery? This ship's bigger than all of us. Which, to be fair, is in line with the way he felt like, this is the only thing I have left. Discovery is, like, the most important thing. So maybe that's genuine. And then Saru's like, okay, and walks away because Saru gets to do nothing in this episode, really. And then it pans to Lorca, like, standing in front of a window, like, reflected in the mirror. But then when you look down, he has a phaser, like, in his belt, as if now he's just openly carrying a phaser tucked in the back of his pants at all times.
Yep. Yeah, no, he's totally, like... The episode is played for that to be ambiguous. Like, you are meant to have the question of, oh, is he, like... actively evil? Is he sending people to their death? Is he just being kind of like reactive and trying to make the best out of a situation that can keep command? Where is he on the evil scale? And they want you to keep guessing because I'm assuming at some point they will have the proper reveal of his whole deal. Like that's what this show is building to. But I hope he is less evil. I like him more as just a sad, traumatized dude.
Yeah, because at the end of this episode, he offers, like, he gives Ash Tyler, like, the chief of security, but then when he sends Ash out with Burnham, he's like, bring her back in one piece, and he's like, no, don't worry, sir, not a scratch on her, referring to the shuttle, and then he's like, no, that's not who I was talking about, and looks back at Burnham. And then after that, he offers Burnham a place as, like, a science officer on the bridge, and... like, Burnham's, like, legitimately moved that he has followed through on giving her a second chance, believing in her when necessary, letting her go rescue Sarek, and then, like, offering her this, that she's like, I'm happy to serve under a captain like you. And at this point, he's done enough things that I kind of, like, I feel like it's earned, and I don't want him to just be a villain.
Yep, no, for sure. That's where I am as well. Like, I guess they could just have him be super evil, but it is... a lot that we have been able to walk back that, oh, he's clearly evil from...
Yeah, no, this has been 4 episodes, and this is where we're at. This show is really good.
Yeah, no, the way it has filled this stuff in so quickly is kind of incredible.
Yep. So that leaves us Burnham and Sarek. I was going to say just Sarek, but no, actually, there's really good Burnham stuff here, too.
There's really good Burnham stuff.
So, yes, there's Burnham, like... being rejected from the Vulcan Expeditionary Force, and in that moment she is like clearly super ashamed and like sad that she has failed her father, because she refers to herself as Sarek's great experiment that humans can be equal to Vulcans, because the Vulcans continue and have always had that mindset that like humans are scrappy upstarts and they get a lot of shit done, but they're kind of dumb and they're very impulsive, and we kind of like have to parent them around the galaxy. That's been true in Enterprise. That was true in the original series. It continues to be true here. And like failing her father in that way is a real bummer to her. And like she can't see past that until like Ash Tyler gives her a speech. And then she goes and like listens to what happens to Sarek in that moment. And Sarek be confronted with like the racism of his own people, and then making a choice that he realized he knows is the wrong one, was an unfair choice to make, and then still not telling her because he thought, oh, I need to protect her from this choice that I know would hurt her feelings. Even though he can't even admit that he knew it would hurt her feelings, is really good.
Sarek continues to be extremely Sarek. And then she goes in and basically goes, you are being a shit, you are pretending this isn't existing, you're like ignoring the problem because you're Sarek, but you can't wait around forever and you can't like lie to me, so fuck you, dad. And then it's just a shot of him basically staring at the camera like boop bum bum.
She basically said, one day we'll have this conversation, dad, and then walked out.
Bum 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 bum. He stares at the camera for a full 5 seconds. It's like, hilarious.
It's so weird because like Sarek is because of like Journey to Babel, because of the episode Sarek and TNG, because of everything we've seen, we know Sarek is a character that understands like understands emotion better than maybe any like pure-blooded Vulcan in like all of Star Trek. You could make an argument for T'Pol, but that's kind of outside the scope of what we're talking about right here. And yet he is incapable of bridging that himself, but because he has two human wives, because he has an adopted human daughter and a half-human son, you get the sense that he understands that like humanity and emotion is the path forward. Like understanding emotion has to be part of going forward, because humanity has managed to pull themselves up from living in tents to going into space in less than a Vulcan lifetime. And Vulcans have been kind of puttering around the galaxy for thousands of years, accomplishing not actually that much.
No, just kind of keeping everything organized.
Yeah. And so when everyone else is like, oh, these humans, we can't have them interfacing with Vulcan society that deeply. Sarek's like, no. We need to like make sure that humanity is seen as equal to Vulcans. They are the future. And that follows through all of Star Trek. 50 years of Sarek, like clearly acting the coldest, but understanding that humanity has its merits in a way that like sometimes humans don't understand, but Sarek clearly has an agenda and goal, but he can't allow himself to have it. And it's like really sad.
Yeah,
and the way that feeds into like the ways in which Star Trek acts around Vulcans specifically, as like in many ways from the beginning, they were like the Star Trek race, right? Like there's a Vulcan on the ship. Klingons might just be pirates, but the Vulcan gets all of the character development where they are. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you can finish your thought.
Oh, yeah, and then, like, we spent all of mid-period Trek, like TNG and DS9 and Voyager, with Vulcans being kind of, like, the butt of jokes, where, like, you know, you have DS9 episodes where they are just made a mockery of, and you have Tuvok kind of just being, like, Janeway's, like, confidant friend that she hangs out with and asks advice for, because he's the one who's wise and can meditate and whatever, to Sarek can't actually admit to his daughter that they feel the same thing about this situation that happened to them 20 years ago. Sucks. Yeah. It's a bummer.
No, it really sucks. Like, the Vulcans as a like race in Star Trek like definitely got short shrift in the TNG era because Data took all the Spock stuff.
Yeah. Well, also, like, Vulcan stuff had taken up so much of the original series. Like, I get why you wanted to move away from that.
But it's also, like, iconic and very defined. Like, Vulcans have the logic thing. That is what their deal is. They are defined in that way. And so most of, as you say, like, it's about making that definition try to fit in with a universe that's bigger than it, and it always goes ridiculous. And then they try something else in Enterprise because it's basically about humans belligerently forcing the universe to come together. Like that's what the stuff with how they interact with the Vulcans and the Andorians are in that show. Like humans form the Federation like by breaking down. Like the way the Vulcans and the Andorians start out in that show is not, they should not in any world be forming the Federation in like 7 years. That's not a possible thing. But it happened through the sheer force of Archer's will, basically. And so here, like, having come from that and having, like, years of, what are Vulcans? And it's the way that Star Trek is represented to people who don't even watch it. Like, people know who the Vulcans are, like, in the way that is not true of other Star Trek races. And then having an episode where you actually understand being one and feel for them, and it's not, like, forced or a joke. It was very, very good to see. Like, that moment was kind of obvious, but the way in which it landed of it being, like, a choice rather than him just lying, of the fact that Spock then ignores that choice and goes and throws it away and goes into Starfleet. Like, it backfills into Journey of Babel really well. They added character development to Spock in a way that doesn't feel like force. This show's excellent. I don't know how they did it.
Yep. It does answer also the question that we had of how old is Spock. Spock is clearly younger than Michael Burnham at this point.
Yes.
Which is interesting. I guess that makes sense given that Spock is alive in the TNG era.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, also it gives Michael Burnham this great moment where she, like, at the end of the day, she's like just reflecting her feelings off of Ash in like the empty like canteen or whatever, and she's like, it's not about him, it's not about the fact that I failed him, it's about the fact that he can never give me the thing I need, even though he's my parent, and I'm sad about it, but I'm actually okay now that I can admit that to myself. And it's weird to just have both things exist in my head. And that's when Ash Tyler's like, well, that's what it means to be human. It's like, how would you know what it means to be human, Ash Tyler?
Yeah.
But it's a good moment, and it's well earned for her. And yeah, the ways in which Sarek becomes like the linchpin around which like 100 years of Star Trek revolves is really interesting.
I really like it. And the fact that we know that in 100 or so years, he is going to break down from the fact that his emotions can't, like, he dies by being overwhelmed by them, essentially.
Yep. And needs like a human to shoulder the burden.
It's really good. It's like so many disparate authors and concepts coming out, like, across this one character. None of this was created with like the intention of ever feeding in like this.
Also, we're talking about 3 episodes of Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah, God. And like he's in more. I think he's in like 5.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, he's in like 2. I think he's in 2 episodes of the original series, maybe 3. He's in 2 episodes so far of Discovery. He's in 2 episodes of TNG, and I think he's probably in the animated series, and then he's like in the movies, I guess. But like we're talking about a character that like is being written as like the development has been written over 50 years, and the episodes are pulling from are basically 3 episodes that are almost 50 years apart.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that Star Trek is what it is and continues to like build on its ridiculous lore that could only exist because it's like started out in the 60s as a bunch of television scripts that weren't really intended to go much further than they were. Like the fact that you couldn't do this with a series that you just made. It has to come from layering things on top of each other and seeing what falls out. Like you have to just be messy about it, and that's why it's interesting.
Yeah, like inherently, like part of the reason we do this podcast is because like we could go and read a bunch of sci-fi books and they'd probably be better than the Star Trek books we read.
They probably would be.
The fact that it's people playing in this playground of like pop culture that has literally existed for half a century makes it like adds layers of interest. It is why fan works are important. And that's basically what the Star Trek books are. They are like licensed fan works of people writing the cool shit they want to happen to characters they like in situations they like. And as Star Trek goes on and we have people who like the person who wrote this worked on Star Trek 30 years ago, we still have that. Like we have people who love Star Trek coming back to Star Trek and bringing new ideas to it. And like, that's why Star Trek's cool. Like straight up.
Yes. It is the things that like the thing I realized like reading the books and stuff is it's basically the thing that is cool about comics and like, you know, Marvel or DC superhero comics of, oh, you read a comic and then there's a big plot twist and the twist is, oh, it's this guy from this thing 30 years ago that's now relevant again. You remember this, like has that world to pull from. But because it's got these levels of, you know, the G canon, like the books are not on the same levels as the fucking shows, which means that you're not drowning in just arbitrary, ridiculous nonsense like you are with comics. And it's also just slightly more thematically driven than... Like, comics are too broad. The Marvel Universe has everything in it because it has to have everything in it. I know there are less broad universes that maybe I would get into if I enjoyed that, but no, I'm into Star Trek. That's the one for me. I'm not going to get into another one in the same way. I've been fucking watching these shows for 20 years. Yeah.
But also, like, to me, this, like, the thing that doing this has revealed to me is, like, how important fan work can be. Yeah. And Discovery is, like, a multi-million-dollar show created by CBS to, like, launch their own streaming service. They wanted Game of Thrones, but Star Trek. So it's ridiculous to talk about in that way. But the original series talks about how women can't be captains because it was made in fucking 1968. And yet, in this episode, Sarek's black human daughter is coaching a lady into how to be a captain when she is a cadet, and it's amazing. Like,
yeah, no, you're right. It's crazy. It's fantastic.
I don't know. This episode was a lot. I had a lot of feels, and I'm really glad it exists. I'm glad we're doing this, because sitting down and talking about these things, it makes me appreciate it all that much more.
So here's the other question that I realized during our discussion on Valk that I didn't want to interrupt anything to bring up.
Yes.
But we need to bring it up. With the assumption that Ash Tyler and Valk are the same character.
Yes.
Does Ash know?
Know what?
Is that like is the reveal going to be that he's a Klingon spy, or is it going to be that he's a Klingon spy and doesn't even know he's a Klingon spy?
I don't think that makes any sense to me.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
if he went through some intense thing with the matriarchs of whatever house he went to, it could just be that he has been changed as who he is as a person, right? Like, his idea is ultimately to, like, because his goal is not necessarily to win the war at this point. His goal is to stop Cole, because Cole stole his technology, took his position, and has now united the Klingon Empire. Like, he needs the Klingon Empire destabilized one way or another. And that's like the thing him and Laurel said the last time we saw them was like, we're going to have to make a grand gesture if we're going to regain control of the Klingon Empire. Because fighting the Federation isn't going to like solve the problem we have now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, but I don't know. I just thought that maybe the way they go with it is like Ash doesn't even realize they Cylon it, I guess. I don't know.
I assume his grand gesture is to get Michael Burnham to take out Cole and then reestablish himself as the head of the Klingon Empire.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know either. I would like it a lot less if he doesn't know. I just don't think that's interesting.
I also don't think that's as good, but I can't tell whether Ash is like lying or whether he's just kind of that broad.
But like the idea that like Ash that Vok is masquerading as a human but is also genuinely making friends with the Discovery crew is really interesting to me.
That's my assumption of the thing they're doing. But then the other way is, I've genuinely made friends and now I find out I'm a Klingon, which is, I guess, the thing that happens in Battlestar Galactica. I haven't watched that show past like 4 episodes.
I just don't think that's interesting to me. Like, maybe they can make it interesting. It's just not what I'm looking for out of Star Trek.
Yeah. There's we've got like 9 episodes of the season left. Between this and after the break.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff to get through. We've got to do the mirror universe stuff. Got to clear up everything with the Klingons, because I assume the bulk of the Klingon War will be dealt with by the end of the first season. So this is my prediction at the like little past 1/3 point, is that if it's true and the thrust of this is like we're gonna get Cole out of power, and then Vok is going to betray them and like ascend to the Klingon houses, maybe that leads to like a tenuous ceasefire where like the Klingon Empire is still a threat and they will continue to be a threat through the original series, but because of his experiences on Discovery, Vok is like, no, we're not gonna like actively fuck with Starfleet in that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we shall see. We'll see which way this goes. I don't know, because they're not going to be at peace at the end of the show in like a proper way.
No, they can't be at peace. They're not at peace until like Khitomer, and even then it's tenuous.
Yeah.
So we have 2 questions today, Jackson.
We do have 2 questions. Ask them for us.
From @Pidmon on Twitter, pitching this from the past. How does Discovery so far compare to the first seasons of TNG and DS9?
It's so much better.
It's so much better. DS9 has an incredible pilot and then kind of meanders for 20 episodes until the very end. Like, Duet is great, and like the finale with like Kai or with Vedic Win and like Keiko's school, that stuff is really good. But most of season 1 is very meandering. And then the first season of TNG is Encounter for Our Point, which is a fine episode. Then Naked Now, where everyone is drunk and acting out of character and data fucks. Then space racism. Like, it's just a cavalcade of the worst fucking bullshit. It is amazing that show continued to exist past its first season.
Yeah, no show in television ever is going to get the chances that TNG got to like right the ship and fix the problems and figure out what it was. Like, that show got like 2 seasons of being kind of rough, and it got better along the way. There are episodes in season 1 and 2 that I really like.
I think there's a lot of good season 2 episodes.
No, me too. But like, Discovery had to be good immediately, or it'd be like, imagine if those first 2 episodes were just bad. Yeah, it'd be dead. It'd be fucking dead.
And when people talk about the way in which Discovery is like, oh, it's not Star Trek enough, and it's not like the show I know, the show they are talking about are their favorite 20 episodes over 170 episodes over 7 seasons.
And there's no space for that on television anymore. You can't have that in a big budget space show.
Yep. So far, I'm really impressed with Discovery. Like, not every episode is like a banger. I still think in many ways I wish this show was about other things, but what they're doing really well, and they are making it really interesting, and I really like it so far.
Yes, like there are things I would like to see from Star Trek shows in the modern era, but I'm still kind of taken off guard by how good this is and at doing the thing it wants to do. Like, we just got a Sarek episode. We just talked about that. It's crazy. How does this exist?
Next question is from my friend Patrick. It is probably not something for the podcast. Well, we're going to answer on the podcast. But Lorca's Tribble is still MIA. I'm worried for it. Maybe Sorry forgot to feed it while Lorca was gone. That Tribble is not around only for you to forget about it so it can spot that Ash Tyler is the Klingon imposter in like 3 episodes.
Yep. You know they're going to do it. You know it's exactly what it exists for.
Yeah, no, 100%. Come on. Like, episode 3, when we did that episode, I was like, oh, the Tribble's there to like wage psychological warfare on everyone, and now it's clearly just gonna pick out the Klingon spy.
It could also be doing the other thing, but that's not not the reason it's there now.
You know what? Like, in the intervening episodes, I just don't think Lorca is like that conniving.
No, you're right. Yeah, no, the curtain being pulled back on Lorca. He is too much of a trauma boy.
Yeah. So that's it. This has been a longer episode than I wanted to have, but yes. There was a lot going on.
Yes, there was.
If you wanted to send us questions and comments, go to podcast@abnormalmapping.com. Send us an email. We will be recording another of these next week. An actual episode of SOS will be out in 2 weeks, right? Maybe? We haven't decided yet. It'll either be out next Tuesday or the Tuesday after that.
That'll be out on the 7th.
Oh, right, the 7th. Yeah, you're right. We're recording it next Sunday. So look forward to that.
We've both finished the book.
There is the most amazing bullshit in the world in the next book. And if you've seen the end of DS9 and you've been following along, everything I could have ever wanted has been given to me in that book.
Something happened in that book, and we both reacted like this is one of the craziest things. By the end of the book, it was like the 5th craziest thing that happened in that book. There are levels. We are so excited. It was made for us. Holy shit.
Jackson, where can people find the rest of our work?
So you can find us at abnormalmapping.com. We have a bunch of podcasts, all with their own URLs. We have Abnormal Mapping, which is a game club podcast without the hot takes and the topical discourses. We just talk about video games. It's cool. It's nice and accessible. It is at thebestgame.club.
What do we have coming up on Friday in that?
On Friday, we have our Final Fantasy X episode. We played Final Fantasy X. We talk about it for an hour and a half. It's a very good episode. It's a very good game. These things are all true. Please check that out. Me and Molly do the Amory Score, where we fucking subject ourselves to the comic of Coheed and Cambria's works, the Amory Wars. It's hell. It's good. It's a good podcast. Come suck with us.
If there's a bright center of sci-fi universes, Coheed and Cambria is the universe that it's farthest from.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. For some reason, that one reference was like a very long walk.
That's fine. It was worth it.
It was. We have the Great Gundam Project, which is our Patreon-only podcast for people who subscribe for $1 or more a month, that is. You can go to patreon.com/abnormalmapping and support the shows there. It's worth it. It's very good. Please help us out.
You can tell people what the Great Gundam Project is?
The Great Gundam Project is a show where we watch Gundam.
Yeah, 2 episodes a week, every week, forever and ever, for 8 years at least.
We have Fireside Friends, which is Ryan's podcast that we host. We've got some more stuff coming up. Oh my god, it's good. My throat's really hurting.
Okay. Here at Head Falls Off on Twitter, I am EM_being. Of course, as always, as Jackson said, support us, patreon.com/abnormalmapping. Come back next week for another Discovery episode as we talk about, do you remember the name of the episode?
Magic that makes a man go mad.
Yes. If you've seen the preview, it's going to be a ridiculous time.
Magic to make the sanest man go mad.
There's a time loop, and the Discovery blows up. It's peak Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Come back. Until then, see you out there.